Welcome, my name is Dan Veitkus and this is the Common Good Show, a program that celebrates a fundamental truth. Life is a beautiful gift full of blessings and trials, learning experiences, and opportunities to grow. This is a show that celebrates the little yet profound influences in our lives that add value, improve our outlook, and encourage us to appreciate everyday blessings from God. These are the conversations that contribute to and highlight the common good as told through the experiences of our guests. All of our guests share an unwavering commitment to their faith and the acceptance that they are at their very best when God is put first in their lives. And what is the common good, you might ask? Simply stated, it is the sum total of social conditions that allow people, either as groups or an individual, to reach their fulfillment in its entirety. Today I have the host of The Door Report, as well as the local voice of all the sports here at Ave Maria University, Billy Derrick with me, man. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Dan, thanks for having me, man. This is you guys got an awesome setup in here. It's good to be here.
They treat us well.
Yep.
Shout out to Maria Vision. So I'm gonna hit you though. I gotta start our first question. Is there something in your daily life, something small, that for you is constant proof of God's grace and faithfulness?
Yeah, I would say I kind of wrestled with this one, but I would say, you know it very well here in Southwest Florida. It's always hot. Sometimes the sun can be a little too much on you, but I think just grabbing that cup of coffee in the morning and knowing, I don't have class till 10, but you still walk out, on the way to your classroom and the sun's beaming down. And some days it's kind of tough to handle that, but other days it's like, wow, we got a lot of sun down here, and I think, just the natural light and having it just kind of beam right on you, kind of start to think of, okay, that's God. So sometimes it's tough,
True, very true.
Being from Nashville, got some cool weather right now, but I would say just kind of letting that sun shine, and especially, sometimes it can wake you up a little bit in the morning too. So I would say just kind of that natural sunlight in the morning, especially, living down here in Florida.
What brought you down to Ave? Because everyone has an interesting story in terms of how they ended up here. I'm curious.
Yeah, mine's interesting. So I'm originally from Nashville, and you're probably surprised to see me down here. But for me, it was just the faith life, and initially I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about wanting to go to a Catholic college. I was kind of like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Coming out of high school, I did go to Catholic school all my life, but I would say I was more of a cradle Catholic. I didn't really, accept my faith in a way that I thought it would change my life. And my sister was already down here, so that kind of had it in the back of my mind. And my roommate that I was going to be rooming with, I went to high school with him, so we were we were excited to go to college together. So I would just say it was definitely kind of last minute. My mom helped with it, and it was ultimately the cheapest option for my family and I. And I think for a lot of people that doesn't go with their decision for college, but for us, that's what kind of worked into my decision. I ultimately, am really happy with my decision of coming down here. And man, the beautiful weather is something that you look at every day and thank God for. And so, I love it down here. But I will say it was challenging making that decision.
So what were the other options?
So the other options were locally in near Nashville, and because my dad went to Middle Tennessee State University, they're pretty close to home, and so I was thinking about that one. But it really just the financial I think burden of maybe making that decision is what kind of weighed on me. And so those are some of the other options, and I think I was looking into broadcasting schools. So loving sports and wanting to get into broadcasting, I had looked around at some of the other schools, but I think my mom kind of popped me back into reality a little bit, and just talking about the financial lack of concern there. So I was looking at all broadcasting schools, and then coming down here, it was like, oh, do they even have a broadcasting program? Do they have a communications degree? So those were some of the options, and I was able to separate it, with Ave.
How have you found? Obviously, you have your own podcast, which we can talk about, and then working with all the sports teams, you're pretty much the voice of all the games and the play-by-play. what else have you found in terms of, because for me, for school, and I started at Ave, I ended up transferring out, but at the end of the day, it was the same thing. It was a financial decision. I was like, it's a phenomenal school, and it's just really good on the pricing, so I was like, that's what brought me here. And I went biology, and we have a bio program and whatnot, so that was there. But for you, what sort of communications mentorship, I guess would be the right word, have you found down here?
Yeah.
That otherwise you might not have walked into.
Yeah, so I point back to my first day at Ave, and I ended up emailing our sports information director, Ryan Murphy, a couple weeks before going into school, and I just kind of said, hey, I'm a freshman coming in. I really want to, break into broadcasting somehow, and I'd love to help, broadcasting the games on campus. And so he was really nice about that. He ended up responding and saying, yeah, we can meet first day you get down here. And I think meeting with him and learning initially, his expectations and kind of knowing the ins and outs of Ave Maria and their athletic department. He actually said that first day, you want to broadcast the basketball game tonight? And I was like, wow. First day, right off the bat. And that's when it kind of hit me. It was like, okay, I'm going to be able to receive repetitions, and I don't think this would have happened at any other school I decided to go to. So I think that hit me. So Ryan Murphy has definitely been one of them. I had one last year, Randy Press. He came in from a lot of different, he had been at a lot of different Division I programs. He was actually working with UConn women's basketball. Okay. And he worked at a lot of other, D1 colleges. So him coming down here, I was really excited to get to know him. And he's a tremendous guy. And he actually left, though. He's over at, I think, Florida International now. But he spent, I think, almost a year.
About that.
Yeah. We'll stick it with Ave. But so he spent about a year down here. And you could just tell the knowledge right away, and he was really nice about helping me out and saying, hey, if there's ever an opportunity down the road, I'll definitely contact you. So there's been a lot. I mean, a lot of the coaches too. Coach Patterson, the head football coach, has just always really gracious with his time when we want to interview him. And Coach Copeland, men's basketball. I know you guys had Coach Rosser on earlier. So all the coaches are tremendous mentors as well, not only with their players, but also just kind of showing the graciousness of their time and actually giving us their time, because I think they like our ability to promote their program. So I'd say a lot of the coaches, and shout out to Ryan Murphy, the sports information director. He does he does everything for the athletic department, and so he has definitely been a huge mentor, and there's been a couple others down the road too. So that was something that was tough, though, to try to how am I gonna network and build relationships at a small school?
Because it's not if you're looking at big broadcasting schools, like that's not it.
Yeah.
And so that was
so that was tough. Coming down here, I had already built a lot of relationships in Nashville, and I kind of thought, am I still gonna have them? If I go down to Ave, a school in Florida, and luckily I've been able to maintain the majority of them. Awesome. But I think I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of relationships that I've built already at Ave, and I initially had blocked out, I won't, they won't help me, but they've been a huge help, and it's definitely, there's opportunities everywhere. So it's just like, as you know, in this business, it's about who you know, and so that's helped a lot too. So
and speaking just to location, there's an incredible amount of very influential is not the right word, but very like cornerstone people right here in Ave, which if you're not here, you don't know about, and so hopefully obviously it sounds like you're using that to your advantage and learning and whatnot, but it's there. It's definitely there.
It's definitely there, and I didn't even mention a lot of the professors. And I'm not biology major by any means, and there's a lot of tremendous professors in that department, but. Even in the marketing field and communications field, and it's growing. Like we had a new teacher last year in the communications department. We have a new teacher this year, and you can tell they, just like a lot of the coaches, they will do anything for their students. Yeah. And it's really cool to see, because they take their time to invest in their students, and I think that, just like you said, is of a huge value coming here. because you see them almost every day because of how small the town is. You can see them walking to Publix.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I love that aspect of it, and you're able to. The community is also amazing, and that helps too. You could see them at mass, and so yeah, the professors, I would say that they really do everything. I mean, they give up so much of their time when they don't have to, to help their students. So a lot of those professors have been a huge help also.
Has that had any impact on, because I know it's very easy to think when you're watching a sports game or something, the voice you hear, there's certain voices throughout sports history that we can all kind of pick up and recognize, and it's easy to be like, oh yeah, that's he's football and he's this and he's that. But living in a community where you actually spend time with them and you can see them out going with their family to dinner, helping kids and whatnot, has that had any impact on you as a broadcast personality, where you're not just the voice people here, but you're the guy, you're good friends, and you see him at the store, you'll do this and all that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think with the professors a lot, you mentioned seeing their families, and they're busy. They have super busy lives, and you see them bringing their kids to mass, and they're trying to calm them down in the back as they're crying, but
the silent classroom makes so much sense now.
But a lot of the professors have just they've really made me extend my perspective of not just their profession and getting things done in that regard, but also sacrifice. And I point to my parents in this regard also, but so many of the professors, they with the amount of kids that they're having to take care of, and then they have classes, papers are great, and I would agree. And even seeing Coach Patterson and the way he operates with his football team, they get up and practice. I think a lot of them are getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and practice starts I think a little after 5, and they're done by 7:30, 8, and then they're able to go about their day. So it can definitely be pretty stringent with a lot of these athletes, but I think that's part of the challenge, and especially in the communications department with some of the work we're doing. It all depends on the amount of work you put in, and I definitely learned freshman year. I definitely didn't put the amount of preparation into the broadcast I'm doing this year. But it's just been cool, like you said, to see a lot of those professionals in their environment and kind of in their element, and they can become your friend at times. They can be your friend at times, but they can also be your boss at times and a mentor. So I think they've done a tremendous job of navigating that line, and never really crossing it at times. Never if something happens, you make a mistake, they're able to give that discipline, but they're also able to encourage you and give you more opportunities. So I can't say enough about a lot of the professionals here at Ave.
Has it had an influence on the type of conversations you have? Because obviously it's sports oriented, but it's different when you know somebody more than just the coach versus when you're just talking to them.
Yeah, I would say a lot of times when I'm interviewing coaches, for example, there's a new women's basketball coach, Coach Moorhead. He's in his first season here. And I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and talk with him yet, but I was able to talk with him before their game last night, and it takes some time to kind of let them open up. But I think if you open up as an interviewer, as a person who is trying to get them to open up, they'll see that, and eventually they'll start to open up. So I think it all depends on the amount of investment that you put into them, and I think they see that effort. I think a good sign of that is every Friday before football games, I like to sit down with Coach Pat and just kind of go over the expectations, keys to victory, and things like that. And I think that's something that in the beginning I think he may have been kind of maybe what does he want to do here, but I think now it's something where we both look forward to that, and we enjoy that 15-20 minutes of just kind of talking about football. But even after, when I'm leaving, we'll have a little small talk, and so he's been really awesome in that regard, and so many other people have just been, like I said, so gracious with their time, and it's been cool to see.
Do you have a specific routine, either getting ready for games or just like a game day type of thing when you wake up? Obviously, you said like you like the mornings and whatnot, and you'll have your coffee, but
Yeah, so I definitely got to have a coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a late day coffee drinker, but I like to have maybe a cup of coffee around maybe 2 hours before kick and just kind of dial in and go through notes. But it's definitely changed a lot. Freshman year, I think, or this was sophomore year actually, the first football game I did, it was more of just, the day of the game, get the notes together and do whatever you can. But now I think it's a full week process. It's not just the game day routine. So now I usually start prepping and emailing the other team's coach actually and trying to organize a phone call and trying to get his perspective on his team. Because, with Ave Maria, I need to prep, but it's not, as urgent as the other team, because I'd love to, give the other team the fair amount of coverage there. So I'd say it starts, Tuesday of the week leading up to the game, and I start kind of, studying the rosters and stats and organizing phone calls with coaches but game day is really fun too. I love waking up on a game day. There's something special about it, and because I'm a big college football guy in general, and being from the South, they like to say it just means more.
Hence the door report.
Yes,
right?
Yes, the door report. Vandy's having a tough year, but hopefully things turn up. But
it's not as bad as FSU, so.
Yeah, things can be worse. They've had a tough time, but yeah, I would say Ave. It's really, it all depends on the amount of work you put in, and I've learned that through a broadcast where if I put in more work for a broadcast, it's definitely going to be, what people want to see, and I think the viewers notice that too. So. But yeah, game days are awesome. I usually get the home games here on campus on Saturdays start at 7, and I'll usually head over to the stadium around 5:30, and just kind of get the lay of the land, go on the field, maybe talk to a few players, and maybe talk to a few coaches. But yeah, it's game day. It's not as much work as throughout the week. So I like to save the prep for that week leading up. And then on Saturday, you can kind of gain any kind of last minute, tidbits or facts that, injuries or whatever. So yeah, game days are something to behold, and it's gotten even better. The atmosphere has gotten even better here on campus, so it's always a fun day.
How was your maturing in the role of being the broadcaster impacted your personal growth? Coming into university, obviously starting with that uncertainty, like, hey, how's this going to go? And then just growing, not just in your classes and with this, but also just as yourself.
Yeah, so I would say it's kind of taught me that, if this is something you want to do, why not put your all into it? Put all of your, obviously you have classes too. You can't put everything into it.
Right.
But just kind of taking that time to invest into the school you're at. And I've heard an interesting quote actually this came from the Vanderbilt head football coach a couple of years ago, and he said, he liked to say, be where your feet are. And I kind of looked at that, and this is for a football team, but I think it can apply to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I liked it because, wherever you are, just, I learned to just kind of take advantage of that and look at it as a positive rather than looking at all the negatives and saying, oh, being here, I'm not at that big school, that big broadcasting school that I might have wanted to be at, but I think I've ultimately learned that, why not take that time and why not invest and receive those repetitions and build those relationships at a place like this, like you said earlier. There's no better place to not only grow in your faith life, but also grow as a professional. And there's so many good examples of it. So I would say I've grown a lot. Freshman year and definitely sophomore year, they were kind of feeling it out and, all right, what's my style, but also as a person and within my faith life, it's like also, you can't forget about that. So. But Ave, there's not a better place, to grow in your faith life. So that's definitely been a huge help. I mean, to have the chapel right here on campus and being able to go there whenever you want, and kind of connect that with what I'm doing on campus with, covering athletics. And like I said earlier about a lot of the coaches, I think they've done a tremendous job of incorporating the faith life of their student athletes with their programs. So, but it's definitely been challenging. I've definitely, learned a lot with my faith life and as a person with a job and with responsibilities. But it's all about, if you take those responsibilities as a positive, or if you look at them more of like, maybe a little bit more of hesitancy. So I've learned a lot and definitely grown a lot, but I wouldn't have been able to grow at all, I don't think, if I wasn't here. So I like to think of being here as another one of those God moments. Like I would say at the beginning I was kind of looking at the negatives, because seeing a freshman year of college, it's tough for everybody, because I think you look around and you see a lot of your friends at a lot of those bigger schools and kind of hanging out with still a lot of those same people. I was never one of those people. I was ready to be able to branch out and grow new relationships. So that wasn't the tough part. It was just how new it was, and so
you don't know what to expect either.
Exactly. So getting into junior and senior year, I found myself being able to kind of settle in to my role, and now it's kind of, I feel like it's all culminating into one last year. So as much as I'm looking forward to moving out into, I guess, the real world, they like to say, I know I'm going to be looking back at this year and these 4 years at Ave and saying I grew a lot. So I would definitely say there's been a ton of growth.
Has there been, in that, and maybe it was freshman year kind of coming in and seeing people go the different ways, but has there been a moment or a circumstance or some sort of topic that, while you were walking through it, and it may be something right now, it was a really, it felt more of like a challenge and an opportunity, and you were really struggling, but looking back on it now, you're like, man, I'm so happy that happened that way.
Yeah, so I would say the summer after my freshman year, I was really, I knew I had to get a job. My mom was on top of me for that.
Good mom. Good mom.
So, I was kind of thinking about that. All right, what am I going to do when I go back home for the summer? And, I knew at that point I was going to, most likely stay at Ave and stick it out here, because I built relationships with a group of guys from Maryland. And they were guys I needed to, I felt like that was an opportunity for me to tap into and really, because I'd kind of looked for, I had been wanting I wanted to find a group of guys just to, kind of latch on to.
Yeah.
Because in high school, I wouldn't say I associated myself with one specific group of people.
That's fair.
And so coming here, I would say second semester freshman year, I was able to grow those relationships.
Okay.
And there's actually a Catholic youth summer camp in Hollywood, Maryland, and they all worked there. So it's a group of 7, 8 guys, and they're telling me about this camp. And initially I'm like, I don't know about leaving home for the summer. I've never left for that long, and I love where I am at home, and I was kind of looking forward to going back home that summer. But they ended up telling me about it, and I learned more about it, and actually their boss, the founder of the camp, came down to campus and he talked to me about it, and and I was hooked initially. I was hooked right away, and it's getting down there was a challenge, because I ended up staying with one of my really good friends, Christian Marks, who allowed me to stay at his house all summer, and we'd go to the camp every day, and it actually ranges from ages 4 to 14.
Okay.
And the kids, it's not they don't stay. It's not a camp where they stay at throughout the summer. That they're able to go home and see their parents. So.
Okay.
But it was a challenge because it was something very new, and my role there was basically forming faith lives of children. So it was something really new, and I looked at it
it's not
as
a small task either.
No, it's not, and it can be really tough sometimes. But what helped me was you could pick the camps that you wanted to that you wanted to lead. So there are all kinds of different camps there, and I was, obviously picked the sports camps. They have arts and crafts and Minecraft camps, and there's so many different types of kids that'll choose those. But
yeah, that's really cool.
I was like, I can't be in anything else other than those sports camps. So
naturally,
the first week it was a basketball camp, and probably 14, 15 kids there, and I think just being able to, because I played basketball and baseball in high school, and so always playing sports in my life, it was something that kind of helped me okay, I can help these kids how to play basketball, but I can also bring them into the Adoration Chapel and teach them how to pray. And that was something that I hadn't really thought of a whole lot because it was kind of, like I said earlier, something that was second nature to me.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, I'm going to go to Mass on
You've
Sundays.
done it since...
Yeah, and in high school we had, I think, monthly Mass, and in grade school we had weekly Wednesday Mass. So it was something that we just did, and you didn't think a whole lot about it, and you didn't think deeper about it.
Yeah.
But going to a camp like this, Rich Olin he's the founder, and he really kind of ingrained in us throughout the first 2 weeks before the camp started about just how to lead these kids, and how to also how to have fun with them, but also how to bring them to God in times of prayer. So it's definitely challenging, but I would say I grew a lot that summer. Like that was the most I've ever grown, and it really allowed me to I think look at the person that God wants me to be. Yeah. And as challenging as it was, especially the first couple weeks, I only knew that group of 6, 7 guys. So being forced to branch out and meet new people, but also meeting these brand new kids that you've never seen, it was challenging. But like I said, I wouldn't have been able to do it without those group of guys that I met. And then it was another one of those things where this was meant to be, and so I think, and then that led me back to a good semester at Ave, and it all kind of culminated into
just keep building and going and rolling.
Yeah, so it was an awesome summer. It was really fun, and I actually went there the next summer, the summer after my sophomore year.
Okay.
And it was just it was awesome, and it's a great place, St. John's Summer Program.
Okay.
In Maryland, and obviously, I don't think there's a ton of kids that are traveling out of state to go, but if there's a family in Maryland looking for a summer program, that's the place to be.
That's a good one?
Yeah.
That's a great one?
Yeah.
What is, because you said right at the beginning, you cradle Catholic, and really just kind of recently in the past couple of years, grown into your faith as more of your own. And then, having walked through that journey with some of those kids and being like, oh, this is actually like, it's normal to me, and it's a gift that I've been able to do this, but not for a lot of these kids. Is there a specific prayer or a specific habit that always helps you kind of refocus and recenter on that aspect of your life?
Yeah, I love the Our Father. I know it's something really simple.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean,
but I think it points back to not only God the Father, but also my dad. And it's I love it because Hail Mary's great too. Glory be also really good, but I love it too because it's something that I've always gone back to, like before the interview, said in Our Father, and just kind of ask God to kind of.
That's why it's going so well. I know.
No, but I know it's really simple, but I would say that has helped me kind of direct my focus always back to God the Father, and why are you on this earth? It's God the Father, and so I definitely think that's been something that I just look to in times of when I need help, or when things are going well, try to help them to continue to go well, and so I know it's super simple, but it's something that I've always looked to as a reference, like back to my dad also, who it's. I'm one of 10, and so it's really tough. Something probably you didn't know.
No, that's crazy.
But
that's awesome.
Second oldest and 7 boys. So his job is something that I look at and I compare it to, God, and I, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about because I think a lot of times we can take our dads for granted, but I think getting back here and being away from him for so long. It's something that the Our Father usually kind of puts that thought back into my mind, and Of course, like I said before, I was, looking up at the oratory as I said it, and I think it's something that not only reminds me of why I'm here on this earth, but also, my dad on earth.
Yeah. Are you the oldest boy out
Yes,
of 10?
oldest boy out of 10.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you've got a whole little crowd
Yeah.
that follows you around.
Yep, yeah, it's been something that I've grown in that role also.
Okay.
And I'm not nearly, I wouldn't say I'm a perfect brother by any means, but I think not only coming to Ave, but also being at the Catholic summer camp in Maryland, that it wasn't something totally new. Being around younger kids and playing sports, I definitely fit in. But I think that helped me grow in my role back home as well, because it's like, oh, you're helping these kids that you don't even know grow in their faith, and helping them play basketball, and it made me think, I'm not even doing this with my own siblings.
Yeah.
And it was something that kind of hit me. I was like, this is why I'm here, and God always finds a way to kind of direct you back to your role, not only with your friends, but your family, which, of course, is most important. So they actually visited a couple weeks ago, the younger 5 siblings,
awesome.
and they were roaming around campus, going crazy. So, but they're full of personality, and going home is always really special. And I think it's made me realize how much of a blessing that tight-knit community can be. And obviously Ave is a great example of that. But going home, I tend to not forget about them, but tend to, be so focused on my work here and my classes and what I'm doing down here. And then every now and then I'll think about them. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen them in 5-6 months or whatever, and start thinking about, when I was a kid and in their shoes, and the things they're going through, the fun they're having, and seeing, some of my brothers that are closer to me, still being around them, and it's definitely a tall task. Obviously with big families, there's a lot of just a lot of craziness a lot of the time, but there's also some really special moments.
Yeah.
And I mean, my mom has just done a phenomenal job, just kind of bringing us all together. Especially because a lot of it, like my sister's still down here. She's doing her master's program in theology.
Oh, awesome.
So she's still down here. And so as the older siblings start to leave, I think there's more of a realization of, okay, this is our family, and this is always going to be our family. So I'd say, my parents, they've done a tremendous job. And, I finally realized, like, being home for so long, up until I was 18 years old, you get so used to being home and being around your siblings.
And every day, and them, and it's...
Yeah, and so, once you leave, it's, you start, all these thoughts start coming in about, wow, I'm going to be here for the next 4 years. I'm not going to see them. Yeah. So it's a big change, but it's always so fun to go back home. And I think they see how much you've kind of grown and changed, and then I feel like they get bigger every time I go home. So
how old's the youngest?
The youngest is 4 years old.
Okay.
Yes, Annie. She's a mess. She's the queen of the house.
It's gotta happen. When the youngest is a little lady, of course.
Yeah.
And one thing. So my dad's actually the oldest of 11.
Wow.
And so similar situation as you. And I only have 3 siblings. I'm the oldest boy as well, older sister. So not the same effect. But what happened in my dad's family? Because the youngest uncle on my dad's side, we have the exact same birthday. And he's 2 years older than me.
That's awesome.
So it's not that different. But it's funny. It's kind of interesting to think about, like, that's my dad's brother, and so I think about my brother. But if my brother was like, the difference between your perspective leaving the house as the oldest and looking back and thinking of your family versus like all your brothers and sisters who are like, wait a second, like he's always been here.
It's crazy. And I actually think about that now a lot more than I used to.
Yeah.
Because I remember, when I was young, I remember my cousins, they always had those older siblings. But, I only have one, and it's my sister.
Yeah.
We've always been close in age. But starting now to look at, all right, so I have, 5, 6, young siblings at home that are in elementary school, taking those classes and living that life. And I'm out away down in Florida in college, and it's like, what are they thinking? What's going through their mind? And I didn't think about that a whole lot, at least early in my time here at Ave. But I think my mom has helped a lot with that as she brings them here. They actually went on their first flight.
That's so cool.
It was crazy. But they used to always drive down here. They actually flew down a couple weeks ago. But I think seeing them down here and having them, like I took two of my younger brothers up to my room in Joe's hall. Yeah, they're always thinking about, because they have so much free time, they're always thinking about where are my siblings. And but I think we can, my sister and I down here, we can get kind of lost in everything going on. Not in a bad way, but there's a lot of good going on. But yeah, I actually think about that a lot. It's crazy to, because like we weren't in that role, I wasn't in that role, but now what's going through their minds. So
because for the youngest, right, 4 years from is it her?
Yes, her.
Okay, 4 years from her age, from that, like that's a long time. And so the majority of her life at this point has been, Billy's off at college.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's a completely different world.
Yeah, it's wild to think about, but I think what makes me realize, the good that can come from that. It's not all, I'm not seeing them. They're probably not even thinking about me, but I think every time, like my mom will FaceTime me and they'll, they wish me happy birthday, a few days ago. And so it was something, it's just always something whenever they FaceTime, it's a good reminder that, it always brings you back to your roots and it takes you right back home. But then you got to redial in. So it's tough, handling the two, I guess, lifestyles, I guess you could say. But, I think going back home, it's always like, okay, this is where, where it all started. And you kind of, I guess, push the restart button whenever you go back home for break. And
do you feel you find a balance, or do you feel like you're going from living one life to the next?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been tough at times. Like, I know whenever I go home, like I haven't been going home for Thanksgiving, but I'm going to go home for a week for Thanksgiving this year. And just being home, knowing you're only home for that 1 week, it's going to be tough. But it's also really fun to go home for over a month for Christmas. So it's really fun when you get there. It's like, we're back home, and we can throw the football around with my brothers and watch football, do everything we do as a family. But then when the time comes to leave and like it is for everyone. I mean, there's so many people out there that are traveling so much more than me and maybe are living more lifestyles. But I think it's just been a good growth moment because if I were to go to college somewhere close to home, I may be home a lot more, and I wouldn't be able to to see that to see the value of that family and of your siblings and
figure out that quarter zips don't work when you win that sun in the morning.
Yeah, man, this is not a good idea. But yeah, so it
looks great though.
Appreciate it. But yeah, it's always tough. So, but there's also some really good moments in there. So, in terms of juggling them, it was tough early on, like freshman and sophomore year. But I think now it's as you start to think about where you might be after college. Especially in this profession, you're going to have to travel, and so it's. As tough as a realization it's been, there's been so much beauty through it, and being able to realize that they'll always be there. So,
what are you most proud of in the last 3 years? All of that, between the family and then building this broadcasting career, really, and then obviously building on your own show and whatnot.
Yeah, so that's a good one. You're firing the good questions out here.
You just You make it very easy.
Appreciate it.
And I'm genuinely curious. So
yeah, so I would. That's a good one. I would say the area I've grown most throughout the past 3 years would be, I think I would say this is really simple, but managing time.
Yeah.
And as a college student, it's so important to manage time. And getting here as a freshman, it was like, only 2 classes a day. This this is awesome, and you know, you get a full break, you know, after Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is awesome, but it hits you pretty hard once you look at some of those grades and some of, you know, some of the missed assignments, because you really, it's so easy to get lost in the community and get lost in what you're doing. So I would just say managing time through what I'm doing with broadcasting, but also managing chapel time and managing class time, and so I just think I've grown a lot in that regard, because you know, everything about college is preparing you for what you're going to do in life, and I know some people may not see it and don't like to see it that way. Yeah. But I've really tried to, you know, I'm not trying to say I've been like the perfect role model for a college student over the 4 years, but I would just say that you know, that this last year so far, and this semester in particular, I've just really tried to hone in on what I'm supposed to do as a broadcaster in my role for the university. Yeah. But also not forgetting about, you know, there's a chapel right across your dorm, and you know, there's the oratory there, and you can go in there whenever you want. So it's been tough. You know, I think this year it's all like, oh, you know, you have a year for this because you're at Ave, you're gonna leave. But I think I've learned to look at it like, no, this is a year of preparation and to try to teach you to take all of the things you learned and keep that going. Because again, that's what the summer program I think did for me too. And it's all a challenge. The challenge isn't, you know, those 8 weeks in the summer. The challenge is finding a way to take what you learned there and use all those relationships, use you know, some of those values and what you've learned through, you know, your adoration time, and try to take that to Ave.
And it's not like, I think it's very easy, and I'm guilty of this, which is why like this is where my mind goes and how I think about it. But it's so easy to think of, like you were saying, those 8 weeks during the summer, or this year as a college student, as the end. Be like, yep, okay, I gotta kill these 8 weeks, so I gotta just do this. I mean, the reality is like it's a never-ending process that continues to build on itself, and so that there is no end goal, there is no end point of like, you know, oh, I'm gonna figure this out for the 8 weeks, and once I figure it out, we're good. It's like, you're gonna need that to some capacity and in some way, and there's going to be more that comes up and more that you're gonna have to learn and master. And it's not just, you're not going for, and this works for all facets of life. There's no end point. Right. It's, I mean, maybe if it's like, you know, if you got a diet, end point. But like in general, it just continues to build and grow. And
that's what I've realized too. And a lot of times with assignments or exams, this is the end point, and this is like, oh, you're gonna be fine after this exam. Yeah, everything's gonna be fine. You'll be okay, and everything's gonna be easy after this. But
3 weeks later, you're like, I'm right back where we started.
Now it's exam week. Yeah. And so that has definitely, you know, classes have been a brutal reminder of that. But also, like, you know, waiting for the break to come. Like, that's always a huge moment. And the break gets there, and I think after a couple weeks, you know, being home, as much as you love being home, there is part of you that is ready to get back to that routine already, you know, that quick. So there have been some brutal reminders, and it can be really tough. It can be tough to, I think, stay in the middle, you know, not get too high and not get, you know, you want to get excited about things, but you know, not getting overly excited about something that might happen, but also not getting too upset. And that's something I think, you know, I think I've always had a good inclination of not getting too low. And you know, I everyone calls me an optimistic person, and you know, appreciate it. But you know, some people, I think it can really, some people like that. You know, like that about, you know, certain type of people.
Some people hate it.
Some people can't stand it. And I've had people tell me, you know, like, get angry with me about certain things, like, oh, you're too happy, like too optimistic about you know, a certain thing that happens. But a lot of it happens just because that's who I am. Yeah. But what I've realized is, like, that can really help someone down the road. Like, you know, having that mindset and having that attitude of kind of bringing that positivity every day. You never know who can help, and it can be a chain reaction. And as much as someone may be annoyed by it, I think it might make them kind of do a double take and say,
why are they annoyed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, why am I so angry with that? So, as you know, I kind of look at my brothers. A lot of my brothers, they're a little bit kind of a different personality, and you know, everybody.
7 of you, that's
fair. We're not the identical clones of each other.
That's fair.
But you know, like as much fun as we have together.
Yeah.
You know, we there's some fights in there, but
as brothers do.
Yeah, but I would just say that that positivity and kind of being able to stay in the middle. Yeah. It is tough. It can be tough sometimes, but
was there a moment? Now I would consider myself a fairly optimistic person. I've had plenty of those conversations where someone's like, "Stop! You're too happy. You're too."
Yeah.
And so coming from that position where it's similar to you, was there a time when that optimism either not necessarily failed you, but it wasn't there when you're like why can't I'm normally so like I'm normally here, but you found yourself really down there and it was like pretty challenging.
I don't know if there's a particular moment, but I think it's every now and then I'll realize it, like if, for example, you know, if my family, like if my parents are annoyed by, you know, some of the siblings, and they kind of, they're giving them instructions, they're not listening. I'm trying to brighten the mood a little bit, and they're not having it. They're just not in the mood. And you know, the kids I'll take them outside and play, and but after that you go in, the parents, they just have so much going on. So I don't know if there's something specific, but there have been a couple moments where the optimism might not be the right thing in that moment.
Okay.
And just because, sometimes with my friends too, there may be like an argument going on between some of the guys, and I'm trying to jump in with some kind of cheer it up, something to cheer everybody up, but no one's having it. So I don't know if I can point to one specific thing that's happened. That's actually a really good question. But yeah, I would just say there's been certain times where, okay, this may not be the right mindset, but in order to maybe, for example, cheer someone up, you may have to take them, and have a one-on-one conversation, and because everyone loves a one-on-one conversation. It's so many people, I think, in those tense situations, when there's an argument going on between a group, it's where do we go? But yeah, so I would just say there's been those times where I kind of learned to just don't say anything at all. And
it kind of reminds me of this quote, especially like with the one-on-one reference. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Wow.
And it's like in certain situations, it's and the reason I asked that question is because I've, like, through my own experiences and whatnot, I've had a couple of those moments, and sometimes it's work and school are going well, but then personally it's just like, man, why? Like I can be fired up at work, why am I not fired up here? But what I found, especially with working with other people, and you're constantly talking to other people, to bring it full circle back to when you first get introduced to coaches and start to build that relationship about talking, nobody cares how much you know,
right?
Until they know how much you care.
And a lot of people, not necessarily people, but coaches that I interact with, they don't have time for some of your jokes, some of your, they just don't, like, they want to get down to business. And even in some of the podcasts I do, like with the Door Report, quick shout out there.
Go for it.
Look it up on iTunes, Spotify, Twitter at the Door Report. I've found, it's something fun that I like to do, but a lot of the guests we have on, we'll try to crack a joke either in the podcast or before we jump on with them on the Zoom meeting, and they are not having it. And
just zoned in.
So because I think that helps you understand, like, okay, they have so many other things to do. They don't have time for that, I guess, fluff, and that's helped me because I think a lot of times, you hear about straight shooters and people that just get down
to the point.
Yeah, get to the point, and I love those kind of people. I do. Sometimes, they people say they can be brutally honest, but I think those people are the ones that get the most done. And as tough as some of those conversations can be with whether it's their peers or their friends, there's no in between. There's no fluff, there's no extra.
Boom, boom, boom.
They just get to the point. And so, I think, like I said, I go back to my dad. He's somebody that's always, he just says what's on his mind and nothing else. And a lot of times I think I get caught, and I don't know if you're the same, but you get caught thinking about it too much, and whether this is a question or whether this is a decision to make. And I just think that's something that I want to grow towards as somebody that, whether it's, thinking about whether to go to mass or thinking about whether to, go to class when you don't feel like it, or thinking about, so many different things that you contemplate throughout your day. I really want to be that person that there's no in between, and so many of the people represent that here. I think.
And I think it comes, so obviously a dad of 10, he's got to choose his words wisely.
Oh yeah.
Because if he starts to run on sentence, by the end of it, ain't nobody will listen.
Yep.
But I've experienced that in my role with my career and on my job. I've had teams before, like people working under me, but not to the extent where I'm at now in terms of controlling the organization and the overall vision of the work we're doing. And I'm very much like, when I first started, our marketing team calls and these team calls and blah, blah, blah. The ones I was leading, I was like, man, it's so much better when it's just this group. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't as far as business standpoint, it wasn't as productive, because I found, again, the same thing, like having a little bit of fun with it, being lively, and again, beautiful, fruitful conversations. But I'm as well still working on and learning the balance of when to just you got to zone in and just get straight to the point.
Yeah, and it's tough because I'm not by any means some CEO of a company right now, but I have probably
in 3 years. Well,
hey, who knows? But I there is 7 to 8 guys that help with the podcast, with the Twitter, and some of our social media engagements and some of the articles that we post online. So, and it's not like we see everybody every day. Like a lot of everyone else on our Door Report team is in Nashville, in that area. So like what you said, it can be tough sometimes. Like we like to meet on Zoom every now and then and just kind of discuss some things. But it is tough to find that balance of, hey, we've got to get work done, but also let's have some fun and make it.
You don't want to
something.
lose yourself in it.
Right.
I think for me, at least personally, there was times when I was like,
yeah, I've found that a few times too. Like you're trying to lighten the mood and trying to make everybody think of you as that good leader, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is let the people take it. Yeah. Like I'm sure in your meetings, I find that too about, hey, I'm not even like. I'm acting like really fake right now.
And it's not. It's for me. It's more of like fake. Fake has a
different connotation there.
Yeah, but no.
Maybe not necessarily fake.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, exactly. It's you've almost got to. You've almost got to like. You feel like you're not yourself in the moment because you're like, I'm boom, boom, boom. When naturally you just want to like someone says something and you're just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But you're like, I'm gonna. Zone it back in.
Yeah, and it's always tough to like zone everybody back in too. And I know like this is what you're doing and this is your job. But for me in my role, and we're trying to grow towards goals, and we have goals that we want to achieve. Yeah. But also here at Ave, like we had a media team last year. And we had a group, I think it was around 5-6 people that would go to football games, go to basketball games, but we'd have to meet. We would at least like to meet once a week. And all right, what are our goals? And what do we want to get done? Because if we weren't able to meet one week, you could see that certain broadcast or that game, or some of the pictures that were taken, some of the social media posts that were sent out. You can kind of see that they're just kind of off kilter. They're maybe unorganized. So I just think finding that time to, meet as a group, whether it's, to just have, socialize, but also get down to business. So, I definitely need to grow in that regard as a leader, because I think if you ever want to grow a business, you got to have those skills, and you have to just. It's so tough to find like a good leader. Think about a good leader of anything. Like they know what to say during adversity. They know what to say during the good times. They know what to say during the bad times. Like, and it's crazy to think about, because you think about coaches, you can think about CEOs, but in those moments when you have to speak up and you have something has to come out of your mouth, I can't imagine.
Am I going to say the right thing?
Yeah, especially in today's day and age. I mean,
that's a whole nother story. That's a whole.
But yeah, it's. I think I've always wanted to be a leader, but also with this, field of broadcasting communications, it can be really tough at times. So, it's learned a lot though in that role.
I think from the conversations that we've had, including today, I think you're well on your way. So
I appreciate it. I think you're doing some big things too.
I'm trying to, man. Just trying to be a vessel for whatever the big man's purposes are,
Love it.
And then I love. I think I shared this with you before, but I had pursued like a singer-songwriter career for a while, and so I love engaging with people and talking and all that sort of stuff. But anyways, that's another story. We're getting close on our time, but I do want to have one more thing that I'm curious about. One more question. What is, because you're in this situation where school has been such a stark contrast to what it is at home, what's like one or two or three things that if someone was coming to you for direction, be like, hey, I'm in a similar spot, what's some stuff that you've learned over the past 3 years, 2 or 3 things that have really helped you out, and you're like, I would have liked to known that?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I would look at that person and tell them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, where do you want to be? And kind of have that goal in mind. And I've always had the goal of 5 to 10 years, I want to have a big time broadcasting job. And I've been looking at that for my, most of my life. I mean, I've wanted to have that role and have that job, since I was probably 10 years old. So what I would say to that person is, what do you, where do you see yourself? Like, what do you want to become, not only in your professional life, but also how are you going to, what's the process going to look like?
Right.
Like, and that can be, tough to handle. I know a lot of people in college right now, like a lot of my friends, they may not know exactly what they want to get into, and that's not a bad thing at all. It's really not. But I may get into something totally different. Who knows? Like, God works in mysterious ways. But I would just say, enjoy the process. Yeah. And I love the process. I love, say for example, a broadcast. I love putting in that work and putting in that time and seeing it come to fruition. And a lot of people, I think, look at the process and say, well, how am I going to get there? I need to have this or I need to have that. But when in reality, everything's right in front of you. You can achieve anything you want if you have faith in God. But also if you put your mind to it, because if you have this goal, this big goal down the road, 5, 10 years down the road, there's no way you're going to be able to achieve it without without certain steps. Like, you're not going to get it. Nothing happens overnight. And so I would just say enjoy the process, because that is the most important part. Without the process, you don't get there. So I know it's pretty simple, but I would just say enjoy the process and look at this opportunity that you're in. If it's a place you don't want to be, look at that as a positive, and try to look at everything that's going on in your life. It's
pruning, it's refining.
Yeah, exactly. So and we hear all the time in hardships, that's where you grow the most. And that can be tough to realize. Like, that can be. It's
a lousy reality when you're in the middle of it, but it's pretty helpful.
It's like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just the steps and maybe setting small goals in between and to ultimately, because like you said, there's no end point. Once you reach that goal, what are you going to do after that? So, you know, the process is something that I think a lot of people may frown at and say, you know, this is too tough or this is too hard. But, you know, if you put your mind to it and also, you know, pray to the good man upstairs, you know, anything can happen. So, and you never know. You never know who you're going to meet down the road. And that's what I would tell you. I know you're not a college student younger than me, but
it's just as applicable for someone in university as it is for, I mean, someone who's, I'm only a couple of years removed, but it's still true. It still rings true, and it's still a helpful reminder.
Yeah, hopefully somebody hears that and
sweet deal.
And has a change in heart.
I appreciate it, Billy.
Appreciate it, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on,
Thanks
man.
for coming out. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Common Good Show. I wish you the best of days ahead.